This video made use of AI to dub the audio from Punjabi to English, but we have not used AI to change or alter anything anybody has said in this video, and all of the words that you hear are direct translations of the original speech. By the summer of 2020, Sidhu Moosewala had cemented himself as one of India's most buzzing recording artists, as well as having shown the Punjabi music world that lyrics about guns and gangsters could be just as big, hell even bigger, than love songs all about girls. But his gun-toting lifestyle had got him the attention of the police, and soon, Sidhu would be in the crosshairs of India's realest gangsters that even the police are scared of. On June the 11th, Sidhu released a song that placed himself into the centre of a deadly war within Punjab. The song was titled Bambiha Bole, with another major Punjabi artist named Amrit Maan. The song would appear as a normal Sidhu hit to most fans and listeners, with the track performing extremely well, racking up over 250 million views to this day. But the song's title, Bambina, refers to two things at the same time. The Bambiha is known as the singing of a Jacobin cuckoo bird, often heard when it rains in India, with this bird song being considered a harbinger of a monsoon. And in the song, the bird itself is singing about Sidhu Moosewala and Amrit Maan's praises to the world. The chorus, Bambiha sings, is part of common Punjabi folklore. Basically, the concept of the song is saying that everybody listens to Sidhu and Amrit Maan now, just the same as they would listen to the bird song of a Bambiha. Essentially, they're saying they're the voice of authority, like bosses. Their voices and their songs are a part of the culture, a part of nature, something that happens when it's about to rain. But curiously, in the opening monologue of the track, Amrit Maan warns the listener about something serious, saying that this song they just wrote is going to hit like a slap for some people, possibly a warning for his ops. And as it would turn out, Bambiha is also the name of one of India's most notorious gangs. Now, I'll explain who they are in a minute, but before we get to that, let's take a closer look at some of the lyrics of that song that hint as a double entendre between the bird song and the name of the gang that makes this track a low-key gang anthem in disguise. The song would begin with Amrit Maan explaining how the police are investigating some murders that have taken place under a tree where the Bambiha sings. So he's saying that somebody got killed and the birds are singing like a metaphorical rain is about to come. Maan continues, boasting his Jat heritage and how the world is in fear, and of course showing love to his beloved tractors, explaining how his religion is farming, and the video itself would show the singers loading revolvers and riding around with bodies hanging from the trunks of their cars. Something they would even sing about, mentioning how the enemy's leg can be seen hanging out of the trunk, all while the Bambiha sings. In the second verse, Maan shouts out Sidhu's native block, PB31, the district code of Mansa where he hails from, and he explains the importance of Jats using their village name instead of their own, like Sidhu Moosewala. In Sidhu's verse, he begins by boasting about his various connections from Musa all throughout India and beyond, and praising his beloved 5911 tractor. And he could also be seen roughing up his enemies and even handing them pistols to finish themselves off with. Next, he mentions his 45 caliber pistol being full of ammunition up to his neck, which he brags about will rip open chests. The song then shows a still of a page from a local newspaper in Punjab referring to 3 men who went missing from police custody for horrendous crimes against women. Now, this could well have been a shot at the police for allowing such awful criminals to escape, as well as a dig at the lowlives that would do such a heinous crime. But this is where the song begins to take a much deeper meaning, with much darker and dangerous implications for the singers than just a bird song. The song itself is called Bambiha Bole, a reference to both the bird song and the gang that has the same name. And during this time, there was a rampant war that was running throughout Punjab between the Bishnoi and the Bambiha gangs. Clearly, the title of this song and the imagery was related to much more than just a singing bird. Sidhu would warn the listeners that people would be mad at this song, and that the bird song before the monsoon was essentially a metaphor for the monsoon of gang violence that was about to unfold. It was later claimed that the Lawrence Bishnoi gang were extremely offended by this song, and it was believed that with this song, Sidhu had actually taken sides and publicly shown his alliance to their sworn enemies, the gang led by Davinder Bambiha. The Bambiha gang is notorious in India, and videos circulate showing their famous members together toting guns, along with newspapers that circulate posters showing prominent members. Numerous newspaper articles would describe the gang as a small set of around half a dozen associates and friends of the leader, Davinder Singh Sindhu, otherwise known as Davinder Bambiha. He was actually a kabaddi player, which is a Punjabi contact sport similar to rugby or American football, but he would eventually lose interest in sports, becoming a shooter and a gangster. In 2010, he founded the Notorious Gang and ended up getting killed by police in an encounter around 2016 when he was just 26. Now, interestingly, in India, what's known as encounters are where the police take justice into their own hands and finish off the gangsters they've been chasing once and for all. One newspaper article on the killing would gleefully boast that the founder of the Bambihas would no longer be able to brag about his crimes on Facebook. But despite his death in 2016, the gang still operates to this day and have continued waging war against their rivals, the Bishnois, all across India and internationally to this very day. And in a strange coincidence, Davinder used to share the same surname as Sidhu, but ultimately ended up changing it to honor his village, just like the reasoning for Moosewala. This is something that was actually hinted towards in lyrics to the song Bambiha Bole, and the gang itself is also named after the village that the members reside in, Bambiha, which is located in the lower west side of Punjab. Now, not much is known about Davinder gangster specifically, nor are there many images of him other than the select few of him brandishing his favourite pistols. But what is known is that in 2010, when pursuing an arts degree, Davinder Bambiha was arrested and jailed for murder in the Moga district of Punjab. The case involved a person who had gotten killed during a scuffle between two groups at Bambiha Bole village. Somehow, at just age 21, he would escape prison and form the infamous Bambiha gang, going on to cause terror within the Punjab region. This led him to become one of the most wanted Punjabi criminals by 2012, and just like the gangsters in Chicago, he too would boast about his unlawful activities on Facebook. His nickname was Sharpshooter, and he was also named in the murder of student president Rajwinder Singh. He allegedly shot Singh 14 times at a wedding. Davinder Bambiha was eventually wanted in over a dozen cases of murder, attempted murders, as well as looting and kidnappings. And other than becoming one of the most wanted gangsters in the region since 2012, this particular gang would also run a serious extortion racket in Chandigarh, Mohali, and Panchkula. Ultimately, in 2016, he would be gunned down by Bathinda police after a standoff over his original 2010 murder charges. Bambiha was known to have been very active on his social media. He would often taunt the police about the murders that he was allegedly committing. He would even call for the police to kill him, and he requested they make sure it was him, as he didn't want an innocent person being killed in his name. To this day, this gang is still running at full force and even operating internationally, with cases recently being reported that members are being assassinated in foreign countries such as the Philippines. Sidhu's specific affiliations with the Bambiha gang are hard to track, but the song Bambiha Bole makes it clear he's kind of repping the set and making an anthem for the gang that millions of people would follow. However, unfortunately for Sidhu, their sworn rivals, the Lawrence Bishnoi gang, would not take this statement lightly. The Bishnoi gang, just like the Bambiha gang, are named after their founder and leader, Lawrence Bishnoi. Lawrence Bishnoi comes from the Firozpur district of Punjab, also located in the west of the region, around 105 kilometers from their rivals in Bambiha. And funnily enough, Lawrence Bishnoi's father was originally a police officer, but later quit to become a farmer, just like Sidhu's. Residents in his local village said that Bishnoi was a sweet and harmless young man, but as he grew up, it turned out that they couldn't have been any more wrong about this young gangster in the making. Bishnoi lived an ordinary life until he moved to the DAV college in Chandigarh, and here he would take a keen interest in athletics, regularly attending sporting events on the campus. But it was at this college where Bishnoi made dangerous connections that would change his life forever, specifically when he took an interest in the campus politics and met student president Satinderjit Bra, who went by his alias Goldie Bra. Strangely, college became the catalyst for Bishnoi's criminal enterprises, as Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldie Bra would begin terrorizing the college, even attempting to murder other students who got in their way. Bishnoi began his criminal record after a crazy situation over a college election, which just goes to show you how deadly Indian politics can be, even at college level. His friend had stood for campus president, and with the intention to scare Bra's rival in the election, Bishnoi chose to shoot at him with a licensed revolver that was registered to his friend. Clearly, Bishnoi didn't care one bit about the repercussions of his actions, as this was just the first incident of him shooting at students over minor issues at his campus. Following this initial shooting, Bishnoi caught an attempted murder charge which sent him to jail in 2010, but somehow he was bailed after just 2 months. Bishnoi was quick to begin networking behind bars, and he would make some useful criminal ties inside. He had managed to source a supplier for bigger and more expensive firearms in Punjab, but Bishnoi had not learnt his lesson after being released, and just months after being free, he would shoot at another person over this election, this time the rival's brother, as he had managed to win the election over Bra. Again, for some crazy reason, he would be sentenced to just 6 days in prison for this shooting, yet he still managed to use his time to network behind bars, meeting other gangsters such as Davinder Bambiha, who would end up becoming another partner in crime. He also allegedly struck deals with other gangs, signed up to criminal contracts, and sought the blessing of other high-profile criminals to expand his own empire to new lands. And due to a clear fault in the judiciary system, Bishnoi was allowed to return to the same college after he was released, even after shooting 2 students over a college election. And upon his return, he was immediately involved in several fights and incidents at the college, leading to even more tiny stints in jail. He even had the gall to try and run in an election himself, and with such lenient punishment for his crimes, he was basically allowed to do whatever he wanted. Bishnoi would eventually lose this election too, going on to brutally assault the winner with an iron rod, breaking his legs. He even made plans to murder the winner of this election with 2 pistols. This time, before he could get his revenge, he ended up surrendering to the police, but he was released on bail after just 3 weeks. Yet again, he was allowed back into the college campus, causing even more chaos. He would finally run again in the 2011 election and actually managed to win this time. I mean, the fact that a registered criminal who was actively trying to murder other students was allowed to keep returning to the college and participating in elections is insane. Now look, I don't know if there's some kind of cultural difference here, or a reason they don't take these kind of crimes so seriously, or if he was somehow paying off the cops to just let him off each time, or maybe it just reflects some of the issues with governing the world's most populated country. As a shortage of staff and infrastructure has for a long time been an issue within India, maybe there's just too many people doing too many things to control what these gangsters are up to. But anyway, Bishnoi began to then spread his influence across to other colleges while still participating in and organising violent crime. And again, by the end of the year, he was back in jail. Unsurprisingly, the Indian police granted him another bail after just 5 months. I mean, the fact that he was given such cushy treatment with such a violent violent record is astonishing, and it was reported at that point he wanted to continue expanding his violent enterprise to other colleges upon getting out of jail. After 2012, Bishnoi had graduated, but kept a strong presence over the political scene in the college. He would encourage his younger members to run in elections and dishing out the same violent treatment to their rivals. At this point, the gang began racking up enemies and started creating an arsenal of weapons. They sourced the illegal guns from Bihar and Madhya Pradesh states in India, and as the police were seemingly in no rush to end Bishnoi's spree of violence, he would eventually graduate from serious assaults and failed shootings to full-blown murders. At the request of his friend Karambir, Bishnoi assassinated a candidate who was standing against his friend's cousin in an election on voting day. After that, there was no turning back, and Bishnoi began murdering several rivals after his introduction into the illegal liquor industry. But his dealings in the streets would unfortunately catch up to his family. Eventually, his cousin would end up getting killed after a dispute with a wine shop owner, which Bishnoi would respond to, creating a hit list of all of the people involved and sliding to get his revenge, but ultimately being stopped by police before he could complete his get back. But it would seem that someone else in the gang actually finished the job and killed another person connected to that murder. Bishnoi would ultimately end up receiving his first big sentence after raiding a police checkpoint and shooting at the police. But even then, he was only sentenced to a few years, during which time he used his energy to plot to kill his rivals and the witnesses in this case. By this point, it was said that Lawrence Bishnoi had grown his enterprise to up to 700 members or sharpshooters, and by 2016, he was seeking the blessings of gangsters in Delhi to expand his territory into the nation's capital. By this point, the Bishnoi gang was becoming infamous all over India. However, in 2018, he would take things to another level. In an interview from jail, Bishnoi swore that he would murder Bollywood A-list actor Salman Khan. This was due to a controversy over the actor hunting and killing a black buck back in 1998, but he wasn't charged until 2018. The black buck is seen as sacred by the Bishnoi community, and this beef is seemingly still frying because as recently as April 2024, 2 people were arrested for shooting up Salman Khan's home. With all of that considered, Lawrence Bishnoi is clearly a fearless kingpin with criminal influence over a large part of India, and his affiliate Goldie Bra is certainly not anyone to play with. And so with his song Bambiha Bole, Sidhu had created an anthem for that gang's ops and potentially angered a very dangerous set of political gangsters. But for now, this conflict remains stagnant. As we've already learned, there's clearly a deep overlap between the Indian gangster underworld and the political elections that place people in power there. And it would seem that politics in many ways was just as dangerous as the gang world, with these two being intrinsically linked. And as 2020 went on, we saw a complete shift in nature for Sidhu's career, as gangs and violence would not be the only dangerous territory that Sidhu would walk, and as the year became one of the most significant in modern history for Punjabi and especially Jat people, because protests and civil unrest would break out in the community that Sidhu had emerged from. And going forward, Sidhu would become increasingly political in the hopes to take charge of his community, with the subsequent power struggles potentially being the catalyst for these gangs to want to take this revolutionary Sidhu Moosewala out for good.